the waves as they occur in the first section or in the movements of unity and motion, in the beginning movements. And then we go from another layer after, a little bit deeper about what each of those really, more about the meat and potatoes of each of them. So, oh, wonderful. So are we ready then? What do you think?
Yeah, we are ready.
We're ready? Fantastic. Okay. So the waves, as you know, are really actually the entire path of balance. We in the beginning, Carolina and I, when we put the book together, and Nancy as well, we started the waves with names. Actually, the waves, names expressing the best possible, what would be the way of relating and expressing what was occurring at the path of balance. Then the waves came in. And then when the waves came in, we decided that maybe we should get rid of all those names that we have given and just leave only the waves. And just because that's what they are, really, actually, are the subtleties that exist within the movements that assist us to continuously be inside of the sphere of life. So then through the sphere of life, we can get to be more and more and more perceptive of the actual fountain of life, because the fountain of life exists as we become more and more connected in all directions of space. So the three-dimensionality of our being is actually our natural engagement with the fountain of life. So it's a physiological phenomenon. Of course, it's a conscious phenomenon, because most of us understand now what the fountain of life means, and the sphere of life means in relation to consciousness. But in relation to the physicality itself, it's extraordinary, because as the physical body begins to be interconnected with that experience, then the mind really actually realigns inside of its own knowledge. And then the knowledge, the experience, and the actual moment becomes forever your natural sense of balance and your natural understanding of the sphere and the fountain of life. Yeah. So now, what I was saying, that now we are in between worlds, with Carolina and I getting ready for the getting together to do the work and the workbook again, because certain names become much easier. Like, for example, going from expansion to heaven, it became much more clear to think about that encircling wave to be encircling the heart. So they mean the same thing, but encircling the heart is a good thing, because from expansion, the natural wave that it takes us into the heart allow us to understand the opening of the heart, which is the door to heaven. Actually, heaven is the release expansion of our heart. So the waves in reality are three trinities within our entire physiology. And I don't want to go too much into that. I want to stay in the simplicity of it. The first trinity is the right and the left, which is the giving and receiving that we start in the fountain. And it's actually the centralization of your heart, which is the right and the left of your being, is centralized via the shoulder girdle at the center of your heart. And the center of the heart is very important, because it is the only possibility really to begin to open the mind and to open the physiology. If there is any degree we are not really clear about what that is, was not sure, then the opening of the heart, which is the tensional integrity of the feeling of balance, is what begins to expand the heart and then creates the direction from which then the vertical, the throat, the head, and the crown begins to appear clearly, so the mind can open. And then from below the heart, the solar plexus, the pelvis and pelvic floors, and the legs can realign into another physiological formation. So the physiological formation, the energy of the heart, and the energy of the mind becoming free are really actually three trinities. They are all one in relation to the 10 waves. But all the waves, the 10 waves, are coming from the centralization of your heart. They are all coming from there, because that's the way that we can really actually interconnect with the geometry and then experience how the mind realigns itself and how the physiology begins to centralize itself within itself. So then the physical formation, the energy, and the space become one. So in the beginning, the first wave that we always work with it was the outflowing wave. And the outflowing is the first movement of unity in motion. Remember, when you're in the chair, we are in 0 point, and then we begin the inflowing wave to foundation, and then we think of it that the first wave be the outflowing wave. In reality, after the fountain of life, when you complete the fountain, we gather the wave to come to foundation, and that becomes the first definition of the outflowing wave. And what the outflowing wave does to us is beginning to create the awareness perception of the elbow, the shoulder, the wrist, and the fingers to extend through the arm. So the right and the left begins to become open right away from the breastbone and the chest. So then we can begin to open that area. And in the practice, as you know, when you start from foundation, you'll always go pelvic floor, pelvis, solar plexus, chest, throat, head, crown. So what that means is that in the beginning study, we just begin to learn the movements of the arms. But then as we begin to study a little bit more, you understand that the wave of the arm is actually the elevation of the energy from the pelvic floor through the 7 centers as it arrives to crown. So crown, from the outflowing wave, it matches crown from the natural extension of your being, which is we get to, through the 7 centers, to start opening the space. Yes? Why do we open the space? Because the space and the 7 centers is the only possibility that we have to be able to extend inside of the vertebrae of the spine. So the space is what begins to redirect the vertebrae up. Because if we're trying to elevate the vertebrae up, we grab it with the mind and we close it in. We make it like a pancake, close it in to trying to lift it. And when you lift it, you lost the center of a space. You are structural instead of being spatial from a space. So that's the reason that the first wave is so extraordinarily important, because it's the wave that initiates the movement from the center of your heart, which is the center of movement. Remember, in the fountain, from the encircling the wave, we come into moving heart. And moving heart is the center of the motion of life, even though it's a little bit, it's an allegory form of understanding that motion as it exists, it is ever existing, and it's actually the existence of love, which is the heart. Because we always say that the love is the energy in which the universe is expanding into infinity. So what that means, the love is all there is before awareness, before consciousness, before, I guess, is one with the light, but it is not, it's not just the feeling of what humans think love is. It's everything. It's the understanding, the emotion, and the physical reality of what love is, and energy. Yes? So that's the first wave. The way that we're going is called the outflowing wave. Now, the inflowing wave is when the energy that we had extended ourselves to it, makes circulars into itself by a sphere of earth. And what it does is it allows us to go forward into an inner arc. So then we can come back into the inflowing wave, into the pelvic at the level of the suspended wave, from which descending, ascending comes to foundation to complete the first movement. The first movement being outflowing wave in 4 counts, matching crown with crown, and then encircling the wave inside of the arm. So you arrive to suspended balance in order to descend and ascend into foundation, in order to get to go to crown again and to complete the movement. So this movement is the essential movement. And what I mean essential is that all the movements are inside of this one. Once you learn the entire understanding of starting from foundation and going to the crown, and then descending from the crown once again to foundation to complete and crown, you know all the motions of unity and motion forever, because that's what the whole practice is about, to refine the sense that the foundation and the crown and foundation are one constantly, because that is the center of life itself and the center of the fountain of life. So the whole practice is the refinement of that. Yeah. So Ellen, you have a question before we continue?
No, I just wondered if maybe, just a thought that if you could, at the end, if you would go through the motions so we can see them. That's all. I don't want to interrupt your.
A little bit. Okay. I can go back in the chair. I don't know what's the way. Eventually, I think we're going to arrange all this and I'm going to put it in my living room so I can show you things much more clearly. But right now, that's the way we are, and still in the sequestered style.
I understand, and I felt bad actually stopping because I know that this is a really great flow right now. So, but it's just, it's like, you know, when you're showing it, it's beautiful, and I just want to be able to see.
What's happening now in the inflowing wave. You know that what you're doing, one of the things that you develop through the entire waves is the line of connections of your arms, the line of connections in which the right and the left become centralized at the center of your heart. So it is a trinity, interchanging balance, right and left at the center of your heart, always. When it's in symmetry, they are synchronized. When it's asymmetrical, they are symmetry within asymmetry. So they are constantly inside of your heart, and they are inside of the line of connections of your arms. The line of connections of your arms is again all the practice. So you begin to unite the hand and the lower arm and the upper arm via the elbow, the upper arm through the, so you are extending yourself through the center of your joints. So it's a form of awareness and sensation that come into being as you are extending inside of the skeleton, inside of the joints, and then your mind understands that you are extending from the center of your being, which is a completely different experience than just extending the skeleton or pushing out. It comes from the center of your being that then releases the center of your heart, from which you can go up and you come down at the same time. So the line of connection is very important in the inflowing wave, because that's the way you're coming through the line of connection to suspended balance in order to get to descending, ascending, in order to get to crown. Yes? Wonderful. And the simplicity of it, the third wave, is actually the merging wave. And the merging wave, the most simple form is that when we unfold from foundation, from the arc of foundation, and we raise the energy, and for the first time we merge in central crown. That's a very, very simple movement that allow the right and the left of the balanced polarity of your heart to balance the center of your rib cage. And then from the center of your rib cage, you have the throat, the head, and the crown, the solar plexus, the pelvis, and the pelvic floor. So the 7 centers are at the center of space. That's the merging wave, even though there are many merging waves, but then I will tell you more about it. But this is the merging wave that we understand right in the beginning, going through central heart. Yeah. Then from central heart, from the merging wave, we go descend through descending, ascending, which is the 4th wave. And descending, ascending is a trap, because the descending of the wave through yourself is what allows you, the shoulder girdle, to be suspended at the center of your heart. So then you can move the center of gravity to the inner arc without thinking that you just have to move back and forward like a teeter-totter, but actually inside of yourself, you're coming back to foundation in order to be able to elevate yourself out and crown again. So this descending, ascending wave is the easiest way to experience it is when we go to the connection of suspended diamond. Because in the connection of suspended diamond, It's again, it's a centralization of your heart and the throat. And then you'll begin to descend through your arms and allow the descending to allow the inner arc to come into being, so then you can get out through the center of yourself all the way up to the center of the crown. So the descending, ascending way is a fantastic thing, because it's the way that we can remain in the sphere of life. Remain is not the word, let me see. It's a way in which we can experience the sphere of life by the very notion of the internal arrangements of our being, so that we are constantly inside of the sphere, and the center of the sphere of life becomes the center from which we ascend and descend, expand continuously, and we're becoming more and more aware of the center of the sphere of life, which is the center of a space. Yeah, in order to live inside of the center of a space, so the physical body can be suspended inside of the center of a space. Otherwise, the physical body doesn't have any way to relate to the center of a space. It's just a word, it's a concept. So, because we are, without the center of a space understanding, we are solid, so to speak. We have no way to experience ourselves from inside out, from which then can begin to experience the flow, F-O-W, that exists inside of the sphere of life, the flow. The flow of our body inside of unity and motion is a physical phenomenon. It's not something that I'm doing. Once I've learned how to place myself inside of the center of the sphere, the energy just flow inside, because it is the function of the sphere to centralize me, to expand me, and to put me in the center of life at the same time. That's the sphere of life, the function of it. It's three dimensions. One is gravity that embraces me. The other one is expansion, which is life force. And the other one is actual moment itself, in which gravity and expansion become one, interconnected. Yeah. And the totality of this sphere, as we understand it, the sphere of life has three different gifts. It embraces me from all directions of space, and it makes me like a mold in which I can sense myself hollow inside of it. So it embraces me. That's called the sphere of love. We call it the sphere of love. Gravity becomes love. Expansion becomes empowerment, because through the actual gravitational field that guide me to the center of myself and the center of the planet, I can expand inside in all directions of the space. And the expansion is actually life force. So the gravitational embrace that grounds me and allow me to be really physical is the same as the expansional field that allow me to be fully expanded. And then the moment becomes the three aspects of three dimensions that allow those two forces to be real. Yes. So in relation to gravity, I'm actually in relation to gravity, I am really actually protected, empowered, directed. In relation to life itself, I am completely alive, because then gravity becomes the field from which I can get out. And in the moment becomes the actual gift of me being present with the moment itself, and be able to utilize through the moment itself this beautiful physical phenomenon that we call three dimensions, through the understanding and experience of the sphere of life. Yes, so this one is and we are relating all this to the descending, ascending wave. Yeah, and then actually then from the descending, ascending wave, we're going into the releasing wave. And the releasing wave is the wave that allows me to be able to comprehend, as I practice and learn, how to move through the center of all aspects of my being, the center of all the joints of my being, the center of the space within my being. And the way we experience the release of that, the release wave is from the fountain. Remember in the fountain when you go to central crown, and then we encircling the wave and we come into moving heart, and then we expand again. And now, in this moment, when we touch the fountain of life, we are extending very gently, and then we enter the releasing wave that it will bring me back into self before I can start descending, ascending again. So the releasing wave, the best way to comprehend it in relation to center is in horizon. Remember in horizon, when you are on the floor in horizon in the second section, that you can really understand that horizon is like a letter U that, or like a horseshoe, in which the center of the letter U is actually the center of your heart. What that means is that when you are in horizon, you don't extend your arms to the point that you're closing your heart or closing the shoulders or pressing to the thoracic vertebra, but you're respecting the right and the left at the same time that you're defining the front and the back, which is horizon. So once you enter that, once you begin to understand that horizon is really actually the opening of your heart, then when we find central crown and we descend in all the way through to self, we never press down with the arms because we are always coming through the center of the heart. So from central crown, when you're coming from the fountain, you touch in central crown, you are extending very gently, and through the center of the heart, you can move the center very, very gently to the center of a space, which will be the center of self, before you can descend and ascend from the center of the self to come back to 0 point before you start the wave again. So the releasing wave is a simple way of beginning to comprehend that I can always extend inside of all the centralizations of my being. And inside of all the centralizations of my being, it's called the releasing wave because it is interconnected from inside and outside at the same time. And I am outside of the teeter-totter, that I'm just extending by closing or contracting by not extending enough. So I'm very gently extending through the natural balance of my being, providing the centralization to the field of gravity, which is the sphere of life, in order to be able to come back to foundation. So that is the releasing wave. The releasing wave is based in the understanding that you are extending through the center of all aspects of your being. And in the beginning, it's very simple because we just do it through the fountain, yeah? Through the fountain of life. We'll come back to that one in a little bit. It's okay, do you need more information about this one? It's each of the waves in reality is a world within itself. So because they are all, each wave are the 10 waves, like each dimension is the 10 dimensions and each principle is the 10 principle. It's because they are inside of a holistic system that is called the sphere and the fountain of life. So anyway, can I continue then and we'll come back on, yeah? Okay, the next wave that we're gonna go then now from the descending ascent, from the releasing wave is the interchanging wave. And the interchanging wave, even though the way that we experience in the movement, the best way to experience it is in the interchanging balance. Yes, when you go from symmetry into asymmetry, and then you come back into the center of symmetry, and then you changing again into the changing of asymmetrical movement. So you use symmetry and asymmetry as an interchanging directions that is always centralized in the center of your heart. So even though you're going into changing the weight into one leg, you're always at the center of a space in relation to the centering of your entire body and in relation to the interchanging aspect of the wave. The interchanging wave is very clearly experienced in the second section when you're lying down on the floor and you're very gently extending one leg, you're extending both legs or one leg at a time, and you're extending one leg, and then the other way becomes a second wave. And when the moment that you touch symmetry, the leg come back into natural bended knees, and the leg come back to natural bended knees, and then so on. You're extending and becoming symmetrical and becoming asymmetrical each time that you bring your one leg up. So let me see, you know what I mean? When we are in it, the extension of your legs. And then sometimes when you practice, when you're extending one leg and then extending the other leg and you become symmetrical for a moment, you bring in the leg and you bring in the leg. And if you choose to, you can lift the pelvis. When you're in natural bended knees, you can lift the pelvis out of the floor momentarily in order to release any pressure that exists in the sacrum and find the natural balance or division in this particular place. But the word division misinterpreted, the natural balance in the sacrum that opens your gluteus and allows you to find the pelvis so you can begin to have width in the natural sensation of your hip and in the natural extensions of your legs. So this is another way to experience the interchanging balance in your legs. Very, very important movement, because remember that the interchanging balance in your legs is really actually the trinity that exists between your legs centralizing at the pelvis. The interchanging balance in your arms is the trinity that you're experiencing as a centralizer in the center of your heart. And the interchanging balance of your mind, which is the interchanging between the right and left side of the brain, is the balance that it gets expressed as the release of the mind and the release of the third eye, the center of space. The center of space is the trinity of the mind. The center of the energy of love is the center of your heart. The center of structure is the physical reality, the ecstasy of life, which is the center of a structural formation of a trinity of your legs, the right and the left, centralizing in the pelvis. The right and the left arm, centralizing in your heart. The right and the left side of your brain, centralized at the center of the top of the atlas in your head, from which the spine then can find, the mind can find the vertical extension to space instead of pushing back or just grabbing the head. So there is an elevator, the elevation of existed in equilibrium that is actually the center of space. The center elevation of equilibrium is actually the center of space. That is something that you're matching as you're coming into correspondence with the sphere of life. Yeah. This is not an achievement. Unity in motion is not an achievement. It's a learning to use the miracle, which is this fantastic phenomenon, the physical phenomenon of 3 dimensions, to do yourself in. What I mean by that is that having yourself being done by it, and then partake not only of the unity of your being, but the unity with all the external world, which becomes your communion with the universe through 3 dimensions and 4 dimensions. So it's a physical phenomenon. Yeah, it's not, that's the reason we don't call it, it's an exercise, because an exercise we're trying to really mold everything to the thing that, the way we think the best we look, or the best thing that we think we're tone. And here we connect to the center of movement itself. And then from then we choose longer muscles if we extend really to in a very not forceful way, but in a very defined way, or very gentle way if we decided just to be in the flow and to be more in the natural flow of nature. Yeah. So you have 2 possibilities in the practice. You can be very fluid inside of the nature itself, or you can go very strong through extending yourself inside of the metrics. So the muscles of your body can become more and more awakened, more toned, more tensional, integral, in order to give you a more, what would be more energy if you want to. If you need energy, what you need is nothing other than allow your muscles to be able to become more elastically connected, so they can partake of this particular energy. And that's very simple. You go into the practice and you practice in a more physical form. Physical form means more extension, Yeah, not extension to the point you start creating compression, but extension that you find inside of your own century. It's a very delightful way of allowing the mind to really go out, and take away any solidity within the mind that it wants to rest upon itself and create the physical body innocently like a shield, instead of the physical body being actually a conductor to the connection to everything. Yeah, so wonderful. So this is important, the understanding of the metrics and the understanding of the practice. You can be very gentle, or you can be, it's up to you, Then in the metrics, when you practice sometimes, and you practice emotions, you can really go into a very gentle state if you feel like you need to be internally inside of this beautiful, beautiful cocoon, if you may, that allows you to heal any part of your being that it needs healing. And what I mean by healing, if you feel discomfort and any pain, or if you feel like something is happening that you don't feel like you're 100%, you can just enter the matrix, place yourself inside of the matrix, which is in the sphere, and allow to remain there enough so all the systems can begin to interconnect between each other, the greater intelligence. And then as the system interconnects with each other, they all assist each other, because that's what the unity is about. And then everything becomes released because it is being supported in an integral form. And it's no longer trying to find a way of solace inside of a place that is not yet united inside of the fabric of the body. So it's a good thing to practice that, yeah? Beautiful. So then we're going to go now, after that, the riding wave, Okay, the riding wave, in reality, as you learn the motions, and I think you get into the point more and more and more now, that you're getting to understand the movements, you're getting to know the energy of the movements, you get to know the sphere of the movements. So now you're getting to be more and more that once you understand the geometry, all that you're doing is just you enter the planes of space. And then the planes of space go out, in and out at the same time, and you are inside of this self-regenerative system that is called the fountain of life. So that's the experience of that self-regenerative system is the riding of the wave. And then we experience the self-regenerative system for us simply when we go in the outer mandala and we unfold earth, and then we release the riding wave until we get to expansion. And then also we experience the riding of the wave when you go from infinity and you're open very, very gently to expansion, and you create navigation, and you can get all the way down through the riding wave into mandala crown. It means that it is the easiest way that your sense of self can understand how you can extend very gently through the riding wave, and almost being done by the angles in which you are pleasing yourself in space as you move. So what I mean by that, that when you open from central crown, from infinity, you know that there are specific angles. Not that you're just going right and left and extend yourself. It's that you're learning all the angles that correspond to the gravitational change, the gravitational transfer, from which then you can extend inside of the center of a space without having to press upon your skeleton to think that you have to extend yourself out. I think I should say that again one more time, because it's so then the idea, the riding of the wave as it expressed, for example, in infinity, is that by now you know the angles in which you're moving right and left. And they are not like flat angles, like extending right and left, just like a flat angle, 180 degrees. You are beginning to comprehend the subtlety that allows you to make the center of gravity, the changing of the center of gravity as you're moving down through the outer mandala, in which the sphere of life then becomes the center of your extension, from which you don't have to press down into your skeleton to sense yourself as being extended. You are extending through the skeleton, through the space, and then that becomes the riding of the wave. Eventually, all the movements of unity and motion will become the riding of the wave from the beginning. You already experienced that in the fountain, some of us. You understanding the fountain is a very unified movement that almost have no definition in it because it's continual flow. But inside of the continuity, the fountain has many subtleties. It has the state of symmetry. You know, you go asymmetrical and you have symmetry, and then you have God's heart. And then from God's heart, you getting into directly into the central crown, which is a diamond. So then from the diamond, you're entering the asymmetrical movement that allows you to make the changes of gravity to the center of your heart and the fountain. And then from the center of your heart, 1.5 inches inside of the breastbone, you are extending yourself from the center of the pelvic floor all the way out to central crown. And that's where the releasing wave begins to come to assist you to move the center of gravity to self. And then when you arrive to self, physiologically speaking, you are in the center of a space. And in the center of the space is where the energy can extend itself down through your arms at the same time that you're going up through the spine. So you're going elevating yourself in both directions, through yourself down and up through the crown until you arrive to 0 point, in which then the fountain begins again. So this is the riding of the wave. Eventually, everything will become riding of the wave. But right now, to differentiate, riding of the wave happen in different places, as I said, going up to expansion, and then from infinity to expansion, which you connect through navigation, and then you go to central, to Mandala Crown. So even though the movements are totally simple at the end, they're a little bit complex only because there are a lot of subtleties in your understanding of the use of space. And the subtlety of your understanding of the use of space is actually your sense of awareness that it becomes more and more developed. And then your sense of awareness, as it becomes more and more developed, then it becomes more, it gets placed inside of your being instead of being in the surface of the mind. So then your sense of awareness comes from inside of you instead of from the mind trying to figure it out in flat planes. Yeah. Wonderful. Any questions about this? It's okay. I'm okay. We are okay. Yeah, everything's okay. So now we're going to go into the circling wave. Now the circling wave is a fantastic wave because the circling wave is the circle, the wave of nature. In the circling wave, as it corresponds to the principle, it is actually the circle of life. The encircling wave, the 8th wave, as it corresponds to the 8th principle, is the circle of life. And as it corresponds to the dimension, it's actually whole nature. So whole nature is actually the circle of life because whole nature is the part of ourselves that is constantly renewing, constantly transmuting, constantly changing. The entire nature is the entire formation, not only just of the direct nature that is the planet Earth, but the entire formation of all physical form that is constantly changing, transforming. Everything from the stone, from the most dense state, still transforming. Everything is transforming inside of the circle. So the encircling wave is a fantastic wave. And inside of the practice, the encircling wave, we'll experience more in the most simple way when we go from moon and then around the crown, or from horizon above the crown, or from expansion into heaven. Those are places in which, through the fingers, we enter the entire sphere inside of yourself, and then the circularity of the encircling the wave opens your heart from inside out and allows you to experience the maximum open of the center of your being, which is the center of your heart. The maximum open of the encircling wave is extraordinary because it releases the thoracic vertebra of your spine. And the thoracic vertebra of your spine is a fantastic thing because are the vertebrae that determine if the energy goes up through your neck to your head, and then from that center go down to the lower back and the pelvis. So it's like the mid conductor that determines if everything goes up and down at the same time or gets stationary and in a specific place. So in the practice, you're taking away any sense of a stationary energy that it wants to compact itself inside of the thoracic vertebra. Yes, because when this thoracic vertebra becomes compacted, it begins to really dry, innocently begin to dry the system. It's like a resin, that it becomes a little bit more densified. And then when the resin becomes densified, then all the joints and everything start losing mobility because the juice is becoming less and less available. But if the energy stays open, the juice is always continual because life is continual. It doesn't have any decay. It's the continuity of its eternal nature. So the encircling wave eventually is every single movement of unity and motion because it is the fountain of life. But when you start in the beginning, it's around the crown, above the crown, encircling the heart. And then that would be the easiest way to comprehend it. But when you comprehend it inside of the movement, I suggested you said, okay, it exists in those motions. So how do we apply it to all of the motion? How is it that everything is an encircling wave? And the reason is because of a triune reality that I've seen, if I can assist you a little bit to explain it. When we say that we're moving from the center of your heart outwards, we're moving from the center out, like in a sphere of moon or expansion, or they are all the connections, you're moving from the center out. But also, once the connections are established inside of the matrix, which is the sphere, the outside and the inside become interconnected. So the inside is coming into you and the outside is going away from you at the same time. Yes? So it's not that the inside shrinks into itself. It's just that the inside, the center inside, becomes the center of the vertical and the center of a space. You have no more place to go there. It's just the center of a space. And the inside and the outside are equal. Yeah? Now, within the motion, as we understand that the frame is the movement, the inner, the outer, and the renewal are inside of the same frame. In, out, and renewal. So every single frame of unity and motion is coming and going and renewing at the same time. So it's not that it's just balanced by in and out. It's in and out renewal. In and out renewal. It's not just only in and out. Yeah. It's not static. It is in and out renewal. So that is the reason that every single movement eventually comes inside of itself, goes away from itself, and renews. And every single movement, through the movements, are either a diamond, a sphere, or an arc that is constantly reflecting this beautiful design of coming and going that is the fountain of life, in which the farthest distance comes inside of itself, and the closest distance of itself goes outside of itself. You're always inside of this beautiful design, which is the natural, eternal nature of all things, constantly renewing as the change that we call life. Yeah, we constantly renewing. So that is the encircling wave. It is wonderful. It's divine, the encircling wave. Then we go to the inner, outer, inner wave. And this one is a little bit complex, but it's not. This one, the easiest way to understand it is that when we are in the floor. Remember when we are lying down on the floor in the second section, and then we do the interchanging balance of the legs, accompanied by the inner, outer of the arms and legs. And the inner, outer imply that your mind begins to comprehend that from the center of your elbow, which is the center of your heart, you create a wave, and when it extends the wave, the wave can return inside of your being and it can come back into the heart. Yeah. So then this wave, the interchanging wave, inner, outer, inner, gets synchronized with the leg. The leg extends in 4 counts and it goes in and out and outer, inner. And what that means is that the fabric of the directions, it doesn't get broken because you're extending the leg. That the extension of your leg is self-contained in the wave of your arms, and the wave of your arms is self-contained in the movement of the leg as an internal relationship of synchronicity of motion. So it's not like you extending the legs and you moving your arm up and down. It's that the natural inner, outer, outer, inner is the natural extension of the leg in 4 counts and the natural bending of the legs in 4 counts. So we are reestablished the diagonal directions of the body and the synchronized experience of the free joints of the legs with the free joints of the arms. So the legs is moving from inside of me, from the center of a space of inside of me. They don't move just from the hip. They're moving from the center of a space inside of me, just as my arms are moving from the center of a space inside of me, just as my head is extending inside from the center of the brain, where the brain interchanges itself between the 2 sides of the brain, manifesting awareness or reality, yeah, or experience of reality. So this is the interchanging wave. It's very, very wonderful, the interchanging wave. And sometimes you can just practice with your arms only if you want to. Just 0 point and just go inner, outer, outer, inner. And then when the moment that you are right to go inner, you got to get outer. So it's a wonderful practice to allow your mind to remain in the sensation of the integral part of your energy. So the mind can begin to become more and more united to the understanding that it functions the best, the mind, when it is inside of the fullness of its own integrity. So the mind is not broken in and out or outer in or all those places. Yeah, it's a wonderful thing to practice. Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to tell you also the interchanging balance, something about the interchanging balance that was very, very important. So let me see what it is that I wanted to tell you. That is fantastic to understand. There is a moment in your comprehension as you practice, because the interchanging balance and the floor is, remember, is the diamond of the leg, the diamond of the legs, they're going into the natural extension, returning to natural bend the knees, and so forth. All those connections are really actually unifying the directions of centering inside of yourself and inside of the matrix. Yeah. And there is a moment inside of the matrix, in the inner, outer, outer, inner, that your mind is going to say, wait a minute, the frame is inner, outer, outer, inner, not just only the wave. The frame existed inside of inner, outer, outer, inner. And when the mind comprehends that the frame, actually, the awareness frame exists inside, then the mind really comprehends how you can be inside of the universe. Because for the first time, I understand, oh, I see. The moment, what I call the moment, is my simultaneous connection to all things. And it's a physical reality. It's not a physiological idea or a psychological idea or a spiritual idea or a philosophical idea. It's actually a physiological reality that the frame of motion self-contained within itself that is inside of the motion of all things. So the inner and the outer and the outer and the inner, as you become more and more connected with you, there will be a moment that your mind will say, oh, wow, wait a minute. The frame is the thing. And then when your mind said, oh, the frame is the thing, then, oh, I see. If I learn how to be inside of the frame, which is the sphere, I'm fine. Everything is fine because I'm always inside of everything. And then everything is inside of me as well. Not only that I am inside of everything, everything is inside of me. And in that reality, the whole universal reality was created for me to experience this divine phenomenon. Because inside of this reality, everything that I ever wanted or want is already here for me to receive, because I created them, all of them in the first place, to receive them consciously. You created everything. I mean, I don't want it to sound too far away, but this is realistic what I'm telling you, but you will get to that experience of the inner, outer, inner wave. Yeah, are we good? And now we're going to the expanded wave, which is the inner, outer, inner wave is the ninth wave, right? It's the ninth wave. And the ninth wave is infinite regeneration. So then the center of the inner, outer, inner is the infinite regeneration of life. Yeah. And it's the center of the merging of within and without. Remember the dimension, the principle of this wave called inner, outer, inner is called as a principle the center of within and without. So all sense of what is inside of me and sense of what is outside of me disappear inside of the unity of my being. This is a wonderful thing, because then yourself is infinite. Myself, I am infinite. It's a big trip. It's a big deal. Wow. It's fantastic. It's beyond everything, because, and the self, remember that in the human experience, I always been self-contained inside of my personality, always coming and going, thinking I'm going to do something, blah, 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 that I got to do. Now, this is the first time that I'm inside of myself. I said, oh, fuck, everything is perfect inside of it. Everything has been given. I am everything. But it doesn't mean that what I'm trying to tell you is it doesn't mean that, okay, now I'm going to be the owner of the world and I'm going to do whatever I want to do. Because once you get to that point, all that you're going to do is to assist everybody to be perfect, because that's all there is. You will never want to do power or getting into anything or get anybody to do something, because that will be an enslavement of your own consciousness. You couldn't do it. So anyway, this wave is a very important wave that takes us to the last wave, which is the expanded wave. The expanded wave is, again, all the waves. All the waves are expanded wave. Either the union of central crown, which is, there are two different places that we connect with your fingers together in unity and motion, maybe two. One is a central crown, and the other one is central heart. Yeah, no, yeah, one is a central heart, and the other one is crown heart. Yeah, it's the only place that the right and the left are united, opening the heart inside of myself and inside of here too. Yeah. So even in this place, I'm fully expanded, because I am in the center of a space. So I'm in all directions, as I am aligned inside of myself. Yeah. The center of the central heart and central crown are the times that we get together connecting. But the rest of the time, we are always connecting inside of expanded wave. But the easiest way to understand expanded wave is, for example, when you go to moon, and then in the floor, when you open, all keep expanding, you touch sun, and then you continue through the extension to the natural extension of your being through side, from which you're encircling the wave to return back again to moving horizon, gathering the spiral, gliding, and settling into self. So it's when the wave have attained in the maximum open, and everything opens in the same degree. That's what expanded wave is. And the expanded wave is of extraordinary importance, because it's the wave that allows to constantly be united with the sphere of life. Because the sphere of life centralizes as expansion, and then we are inside of it constantly. So the being inside of the sphere of life, I wanted to clarify it a little bit. It's a very delicate thing to talk about it, because it is transcendental in its experience and understanding the sphere of life. It's not like an ecstatic idea, okay, now I'm inside of the sphere of life. It's that your being opens itself like a flower, and the opening of the flower gets balanced, get embraced by gravity and everything, and then your experience, your union with the center of a space. which is your union with everything. So it is a form of I don't know what the way to say it. It's not devotion, because it's not devotional. It's really realistic. Yeah, the consciousness interpreted devotional as giving myself up. So my connection to the sphere of life is not giving myself up. It's giving myself in, so to speak. You know what I mean? Because it is the actual union of the physiological phenomena. It's not a projection of my sense of self wanting to connect to something. It's a physical phenomenon. So what we're talking about is a physical phenomenon that always existed, but we didn't know how to use it. The new consciousness finally gave us all the tools, and it's ever present. And certain people have access through time to be with it, but it didn't exist in that time as a continuity of reality. This is the first time that the engagement with the sphere of life is the natural moment of life inside of the existence of universal balance. It's not an actual outburst of my consciousness going to samadhi and experience the sphere of life. No, the sphere of life is the union with the moment of life itself. So it is not a design of consciousness to keep me in some place. It is actually the door in which my consciousness becomes free from all those things, and I become free to experience the magic that existed in the reality itself, which is much larger than the magic that I projected inside of my linear mind. Yeah, the magic that I projected inside of my linear mind is all things that I invented inside of the endless repetition of my experience. But they never really were new. They were just arrangements of the all. So this is the first time that I'm inside of the magical adventure of life, in which it's not the projection of my mind, it's the natural encounter of reality itself, which is renewing along with myself, along with everything, in this extraordinary voyage called universe now. So it's fantastic. It's a trip. It's really a trip. But so yeah, the divine. Yeah, it's difficult to get it. Glenn, we don't have a voice.
That last about the consciousness one more time, about the projection of
the projection. Yeah, remember that in the linear process, in our story of our evolving self, we projected ourselves into endless possibilities of fulfillment.
Right.
But they were all inside on a specific design. I will become samadhi, I will become connected to God, I will enter the seventh house of the seventh brain, I will just live forever, I will be eternal. But so I created all those images, but all those images were natural projections that got created inside of the mind out of the desire to find solace from having to repeat constantly the same story and the same story. So in the renewal, what we're talking about now, connecting to everything, being inside of everything, is that for the first time, I am inside of a new awareness of existence that it never has been predicted. It's outside of the way that the mind interpreted the possibilities. Because the possibilities were all recreated inside of the same story.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was just all the possibilities that we have in the story were very self-contained. So this is the first time that we don't have a story. We are the renewing of all the stories inside of a new story, but it's not a story because it's an experience. Inside of a new experience, that we are experiencing everything inside of the known and unknown reality as renewal. It's fantastic. It's the actual renewal of your soul for the first time. It's not your soul getting another more tips or more points by how good you have been. It's your soul becoming free from those stories. And now finally it said, oh my God, reality is much larger than the projection that I have received.
Right.
That I created, yeah? The easiest way to comprehend that for you, for us, is to the movies. If you go to the movies, you see, you go to the movies, the same story is the same story always. The farther you can go is the devil of another dimension is going to attack the planet Earth, and the planet Earth is going to go into the final extinction. And now somebody is going to come over and save it. In the last minute, it sounds to be that everything is going to fall, but then everything arranges itself, and we create in the sequence. But the sequence will always be the same thing.
Yeah.
More more special effects and more lighting, more things, more explosions, more better actors that they seem more real, but they're all the same story forever and ever and ever. But that was the story. It was a natural, it was a sweet thing, but it's a little hokey. Now how many stories can you see that the devil is coming and get you, and then in the last minute you're going to be saved until the devil gets you again. Whatever. So this is the most simplistic way of understanding how we have been innocently self-enclosed inside of that system. So that's the system that we are now free from it. So we are all together now here in the new world, which is magical, fantastic, beautiful, and divine. And I use the word magical because it is outside of any possibility of imagination, because it's much larger than my imagination. But the only thing that I know for sure that it's going to be good. Yes, exactly. You can never, in reality, you can never have a bad trip. You can never have, because nobody is coming and come to get you. On the contrary, everybody's going to give you everything. So it's going to be a fantastic voyage. So I don't have to worry about what's going to happen in the future. I only know that it's going to be fantastic because I'm going to be in it, and everybody's going to be in it, and everybody is going to create good for everybody. Nobody's going to say, no, you're staying, you're going, all that. Forget, all that is crazy. It doesn't exist. So anyway, those are the 10 waves in it. And I don't know how am I doing with time.
Doing great with time.
We can wait with time.
Cristaim, I just had something I wanted to say about.
Yes, absolutely.
As you were talking, I was thinking about two specific paths, which in the Unity in Motion movement, as we were discussing. Now, first we have the outflowing wave, and then we have the inflowing wave. Now, then when we're in the second section, going to neutral to moon is an outflowing wave, really, and then coming in and settling into neutral is an inflowing wave. So they're kind of like, they're directly related to each other. And in our experience, the unveiling, I guess you could say, of the inflowing wave and the unveiling of the path from moon to neutral has been extraordinary. And I was thinking, just within like the inflowing wave now, there's waves inside of the inflowing wave. We start in crown, and there's an encircling wave, and then we come up, and then there's a descending, ascending wave, and then this is probably a wave right in here.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And then when we go from neutral to moon and then coming down, I mean, there's all sorts of waves in there.
Yes.
And we could really, at some time go through those, with, just frame by frame and see how many waves are existing within those two paths. It's just, and it's like, it's really interesting to think, the outflowing wave is sort of simple, but the inflowing wave is like,
it's a trap.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So once you begin to understand your internal sensation of your waves without making a big deal about it, you will be able to become fascinated with it, because it is all dependent in your relationship to space, number one, because your relationship to space is the actual experience of the energy. I would say the relation to the sphere, but when I'm talking the relationship to space, I mean the sphere. And when I'm talking about the sphere, I mean the relationship to space. You understand that, right? All directions of a space, the only way that the mind can comprehend it is as a sphere. Because if you just say all directions of a space, what do you mean? This one more than this one more? You can say, okay, all directions, but it's an image that it cannot be matched as a sensation except through the sphere, which is the synchronicity of all directions of space as one. The sphere is the synchronicity of all directions of space at once. Yeah. So that's it. And then inside of that, otherwise you wouldn't be able to refine anything. If I keep saying everything is expanded, everything, I can't help you, because you will just go all over the place thinking, okay, it's fantastic. But then you won't be able to find the outside in, because the outside in and the outside, the inside out and the outside in exist inside of the sphere. And then once you that come into your awareness, then you understand that the fountain is actually the recreation of the sphere constantly, but it's freedom. It's inside of freedom. It's not self-contained. But the self-contained is in some degree innocently necessary as a physical phenomenon, because it's the only way we can comprehend it, understanding or experience. Otherwise, we wouldn't. We cannot comprehend it, understand it, and experience. It doesn't mean anything, because then it's like, okay, whatever. Yeah, oh, okay. Yeah, it's that, in that sense. So the reason that Carolina is saying that the inflowing well lying down on the floor is a trap, the inflowing well in the second section, because the inflowing way, where we use the inflowing when we are standing, becomes completely different experience when we are lying down, because then the lying down is gravity becomes like a horizontal field predominant. When we are standing vertical, it's a predominant field. Yeah. So when horizontal becomes the predominant field, it demands that from moon, we go to moving horizon and circling the diamond and gliding and settling into balance. So that path became 4 different waves, almost interconnected as one, in order to assist the heart to remain open and the 7 centers to remain open. Because remember that the opening of your heart is essential for the 3 centers above to remain open and the 3 centers below to remain open, because it is like a bridge from which the above and below become one, your heart. So that becomes a voyage to learn that movement and to refine it, because when you go to moon and moving horizon and encircling the diamond and gliding and coming into self, there is a moment that your joint wants to go, or the joint wants to collapse, innocently collapse a little bit, or create a very funny alignment inside of the hip, the shoulder joint. And what you're doing is realigning the shoulder joint from the center of the fascia, the center point. So this is the joint. This is the joint, and this is the socket. The center joint and the center socket begin to learn to rotate inside of itself, so it doesn't have to push out, because it start pushing out, it breaks the fabric. And then the center of your heart, instead of being fully expanded, begins to take form as tension and edges. And when that happens, the brain start going like this. And then you see, well, where am I right now? You're in the analytical mind, again, momentarily. And then the physical sensation disappears. So that motion of reestablish the center of your shoulder joints and so forth is essential, because it's the directions in which the mind can comprehend extending its inside of its own form. And then the mind can really understand the gentleness that exists within the fabric of life, which is your body. It's beautiful. So anyway, that is that trip, as Carolina said, it's a trip, as a movement. And there are endless movies. Once you start connecting to everything, you can go, you can in endless motions. But I try to stay away from that, even though sometimes I go there in the endless motions, because I use more the practice to really get me very neutral in my experience of self. Because that's, during the day, I'm going to the garden, blah, 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 the people, news, everybody. So whenever I go into the neutrality of the metrics and the purity of the motions, my mind becomes completely stable and perfect, and it doesn't have to go through any pyrotechnic. So I use it more for attunement now than for anything else. I love the attunement to get me back in any time, even when I don't need it, I'll do it, because I think it's nice, because it kept me connected to the greater field. because it's a big deal to be connected to the greater field, because most of in our daily day, you know, everything wants to, you know, you have to call the doctor, you have to make the appointment, you got to go get the mild paid insurance of the car, clean the house, cut your nails, go in the garden, go buy shopping food, you know, talk to your friends, all of your children, the endless stories of the endless stories. And, you know, so you're always inside of a field that is constantly going, oh, my God, this is something wrong is happening. And you know there is nothing wrong is happening, but nevertheless, you are a little bit exposed by it because you love everybody and you are, you know, you experience that. So it's important to put yourself in neutral constantly, neutral meaning the center of your being, because it's the way that you're renewing. That's the only place that I can really renew. Yeah. Renew means connecting to the moment that correspond to renewal. Not going on sleep for 8 hours and awaken rested. It's a different way. It's just renewing as it goes along, you know, in the natural way of being with everything. So anyway, Ellen, there's anything, Nick, that we need to, any questions about anything? I mean, I would like to go more in detail for the waves, but I think that what I would like to do, if it's possible, leave it as it is, and then you have the video and you have the audio and all the things, and then find out if there's any wave that you would like to really know more about it, find out more about it, because there are a depth in each of them. It's because each of them shall contain the 10. You know, each of them, the outflowing wave shall contain everything. And then 0 point balance is actually your connection to the wave that is the moment of the universe. That's what you're developing, right? We're developing a symbol. Then I said, okay, 0 point balance. Okay, here I am. And this is the moment of union with the universe. So you don't have time to go, okay, the center of the head, the top of the head, blah, 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 blah. You can do that in the practice, but then it all has to be synthesized in the moment of your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's become synthesis. And it does. You become more and more the natural moment. So remember that you're always in 0 point. And if you're any degree you are uncomfortable, it's because you have, for some degree, innocently lost the alignment in relation to the sphere, which is the inner relationship of the centering of your being. And then once you adjust that, the mind adjusts, you're inside of the sphere, you're taken care by the sphere and everything is perfect. But that's where you're refining constantly. And it takes a while because we are the first human beings that we are using the sphere of life to support ourselves and to empower ourselves and move with existence. Before we didn't know what that was, you know, the sphere, whatever, you know, it's different things. So you have to give yourself certain
And Christy,
points. Yeah.
I also think it's important, I know it's important for me to remember that although there seems like a lot and we're learning and this and that, not to put myself into time, you know, to know that this is the moment.
Yes.
And this is the moment, and this is the moment. And
yeah.
all of this is enriching the moment in our lives, but this is the moment.
Exactly. This is the moment.
And it's here. It's right now.
Yeah.
It's not when I learn the waves. It's not when I, you know, do all of that. It's right here.
Exactly.
So,
it's always at the same moment that you're living, and it's always the information it's wonderful in the sense that assists to the mind to have more and more and more and more understanding of its perfect unity. So the mind as the mind comprehends more and more of its perfect unity, it becomes more and more grounded in its own wholeness, and it becomes the mind of God, because that's what the mind of God is, perfect unity. So then what happens is also that at any one moment, you understand that it's the function of the real mind, not the linear mind, but the real mind, the mind that is quantum entanglement, the mind that is quantum entanglement, to synergize everything into the same thing, into oneness. That's the reason in quantum entanglement, remember there is if you go to the farthest distance in the universe and you move something, okay, at the same time, it moves, it means that everything is simultaneously interrelated. So the mind that we're talking about is all united all the time, all the time, all the time. So it's good for you to remember that at any one moment, you are already in contact with that mind that is already inside of everything. So inside of that mind, you don't have to learn anything. But if you learn it, It will enrich you in the degree that you have more understanding of the nature of unity. And that's a lovely thing because, you know, unity is all there is, so might as well understand it. It's lovely, it's a treasure. But anyway, it's very important to remember what Carolina said, that at any one moment you're perfect. At any one moment you're in the new voyage. At any one moment I'm renewing. At any one moment the 10 ways are doing me. At any one moment I am the one that is creating the new world. At any one moment the new world is creating me simultaneously as I'm going along. Everything is, we are blessed. Everything has been given in the moment of our life, what we call our life, you know? So anyway, it's divine. So we leave it for now here like that. It's okay. And then we'll do it again or whatever you want to. I'm always, believe me, it's the biggest pleasure for me to do this. I mean, you know, it's like I have to pay you to do it. Yes, absolutely. Because it's, you know, it's the way that I am. You know, I mean, I'm get to be me. You know what I mean? Talking to you about all those things. So I'm always here, ready to go because I'm ready. I'm in it. So I don't have to prepare myself too much now, more less and less because there is not a lot of preparation. But I like it just to really, you know, like Carolina called me this morning and says, well, you know, what are we going to do with the waves and so forth? So immediately she and one at the same time that we were talking about, by the time we finished talking, after a few minutes, she sent me a list of all the waves and everything. I have it in front of me. Everything is right here, you know. So it's fantastic. Divine. Technology is divine.
Isabel, did you have a question?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Me?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cristiam, this is just something I wanted to talk to you about that's more in my family about your book Fulfillment.
Yes.
That can be downloaded. That was 2009. So I have a grandson who's very interested in the new consciousness and he's reading and reading and reading. And I suggested he download Fulfillment.
Yes.
As the first thing, because if you go into the Unity in Motion blog, there's so much you can
Yes.
get a little lost. I wonder if you think that's a good beginning point.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yes, a good beginning. Yes, absolutely. Download the Fulfillment. I forgot it exists. Thank you for bringing it forward. Yeah, because it is the most concise, the last book that we wrote, and it's the most closer approximation to what it is right now, because now, in that time, we were not completely in it, but now we are in it. So, but it's good. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I found it extremely valuable.
Yeah, and ask it to ask your questions to you then.
Well,
you will be able to know all the answers. Believe me, darling, I trust you.
I will. He already has a question I'm just going to put to you because I think he said, look, with this, let's call it fulfillment, this new consciousness where we all are what, you know, with the whole shift, however he puts it. He's 21, right? He's all excited about all of this. This is Alexander's son, you know.
Oh, how lovely. My God, how beautiful.
Yeah. And so he thinks someone told him, I don't know who, he consulted some intuitive who said, you have no karma. And
true.
So he's just completely blown away by that. We had this joke about him going to a party. Yes, I'm I'm Andrew Meisler, and I have no karma. You know, when they introduced him, I'm from Wisconsin. I have no karma.
How old is he now? 19?
He's 21.
21. So that means he was born after the harmonic convergence, right?
Yeah. Does that mean everyone born after the harmonic convergence is born without karma?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Because what happened is that the harmonic convergence, in the moment that it happened, erased all the stories that existed inside of the genetical memory of duality. So every single human being that is now born is renewed. It doesn't carry the story of the genetics. And if I have any story of the genetics, it will be able to become very free right away, because once the mind can comprehend there is a story that no longer is pertinent, the person can allow the mind, like a computer, I said, erase, delete, and delete, delete. And then, especially if you understand that the delete is not cavalier, it's just that if you delete something that has been innocently projected into your being, you have to get rid of the root of the causes. But you can get rid of the root of the causes in one instant. You know, it's like getting rid of systemic racism. You can be free from systemic racism in one instant in your life. by understanding that have existed as a confusion of our human interpretation, and that it doesn't exist in reality, that all there is unity. So then in the moment you release it, you're free. And then everybody around is going to come and hug you because they will not have any projection. They will not experience any projection from any kind. So anyway, the realm of karma got dissolved.
Wonderful.
Completely. So that's the reason we don't have any more process. You know, we only have knowledge of eternal time that we are receiving in order to be able to consciously understand, feel, and experience the beauty of what has been given. We don't have to become anymore. We are just unveiling the gift.
I love that. Unveiling the gift is beautiful.
Absolutely. That's it. That's all there is. So darling, I adore you, all of you.
Thank
Fantastic.
you.
Just keep asking questions, type, recording. Thank you, Ellen, for being the beautiful catalyst that you are as always. Thank you, Carolina, for everything. Thank you, Nancy. Oh, my darling, thank you, the great Isabella, Lois, Bonita, I adore you. Have fun, okay? Have Sunday. Ciao, ciao. Thank you.
Love you guys.
Ciao, ciao. Ciao,
Bye.
ciao. I don't know how to go in this.